All right. So welcome back to the Results Driven Podcast. So Heels Homes which is our real estate investing business, has been changing a bunch of stuff lately and testing a lot of new things. So you'll probably hear me and Josh go back and forth, updating you all on these changes throughout the next several episodes. But I thought today it would be good, and I'll ask questions as if I'm one of our guests, if that's cool with you.
Let's do it.
So one of the things that recently happened in Heels Homes was that our connection rate tanked, especially for direct mail and inbound leads like PPL and PPC. Mm-hmm. So when did we discover that? What did it where was it at? Where did it tank to? And let's start talking through the steps of how we're changing it.
Yeah. So, it's important to note, Tiff, you mentioned connection rate, which is what we're measuring. We're just measuring it in a different way. We call it our discovery rate. Discovery is essentially a lead that we've reached out to, or they've reached out to us, and for whatever reason, we haven't been able to contact them. So we saw our discovery rate significantly increase, and
So when you say, just to clarify that, discovery is a lead status inside of our CRM.
Correct.
And that means that someone raised their hand. So just for example, if a cold caller submitted a lead, right? They submitted a form, it comes in as a new untouched lead, we call it, we can't reach it, then we did not connect with it. So to clarify more, discovery is a lead status. And so our discovery status, we have not been able to reach these people. The number of people in that status has increased.
Significantly, yeah. And to put it into perspective, we typically hover around for pay per lead, for example, we typically hover in the 30-35% discovery rate. And
so that means that you reach 7 out of 10 people, in the first day, the first hour, like what?
Essentially the first 30 days is where we're seeing that is happening. And
what do you think is causing the other 30% not to get reached?
Unfortunately, there's times where you get spam. People go to a website and they see get your cash offer, and they think that all they got to do is fill out this information and a magical number appears on the screen. We actually have gotten that feedback on the phones with people. So they'll put in a fake phone number, a fake name, and a fake email address with a real address, hoping to just get the magical number that pops up. And obviously that's not how it works.
Okay.
Yeah. So what we had seen was we went from that 30-35% discovery rate, and it climbed all the way to 80%. And obviously that is a huge, huge red flag. This also happened at a time where I had tripled, quadrupled our budget on that channel as well.
So I'm just curious because we went like a time period with not performing as usual. So was it that drove us to go find a bunch of things, or did we actually already have a report in place that showed us that rate increase?
No, performance had dropped, and we weren't checking that as regularly as we are now as a result of this. To put it into perspective, once a month we review our overall marketing, organizational tracker is what we call it. We have specific things like leads and the lead count versus lead goal, and our contract count versus contract goal broken down by channel that we review on a weekly basis. But zooming out to that level of detail, we only look at that once a month. And when we saw this, so that was one channel with pay per lead. The other channel it happened with was direct mail. Typically, we have like a 3 or 4% discovery rate because every direct mail that calls in, it simultaneously rings to our entire sales team to make sure that if people are on the phone, someone on the line is the most important opportunity.
Yeah.
And so we want to make sure that gets answered.
I'm just curious because some people that are like one-man shows, we should have, in my opinion, a 0% discovery rate on mail because they're calling us, so we should be picking up the phone. So knowing that it sounds like our team's too busy to answer the phone, should we be sending it to a call service?
You know, I've thought of that. The reason why I haven't done it is, I don't know if you remember this, but I remember we used to use a call service way back when we first got started, and something was just really odd. Something was off where someone would call in and I would call them back, and they would not answer my phone call. They would ghost me on appointments. They would tell me they're not interested as soon as I got on the phone, even though they talked to someone on the phone. And so I started to go and listen to these calls that the call service was having, and I wanted to pull my eyes out. It was that bad. It was like nails.
A decade ago.
It was nails on a chalkboard, and like this is why I don't want to go back to that.
So what have we done to verify today?
So here, let me just get down to the root cause.
He just doesn't want to answer my question.
Ultimately, yes, in a perfect world, 100% of calls are answered. But here's what isn't taken into consideration. Someone calls at 11 p.m. and the team's in bed.
Why don't we have a call service for after hours?
We could absolutely do that. Then there's things like that pop up where the call's not answered live. And so therefore you're not perfect. 3% is pretty freaking good when you're talking about over 340 leads a month. Like, that's not bad. You're talking about.
So we land though, like what, 1 of 8 or 9 leads though, right?
Quality leads.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then you're saying how many leads do we get right now in mail a month?
We get like 340-ish leads a month.
So that's a deal a month that we're missing by not answering those calls. That's 1 out of 9. That's $30,000.
If I was looking at only quality leads, yes. But the problem is those are call ins.
You don't know that.
Those are call ins, and they're not.
I bet anyone calling at midnight is not calling us to tell us to fuck off.
We typically land like 1 of 28 call-ins per contract. So that would mean, if we're looking at that logic, I agree, one deal a quarter, which is still, that's what?
$30,000.
$30,000 a quarter, which is what, over a year?
A lot.
Yeah, it is a lot. So like it would make sense to put a call.
Oh, I might be winning this one. All right, so we got that. We're going to do a call service, at least in after hours, it sounds like.
Yes.
Okay.
Now,
see that, guys? See, we're negotiating what we change in the company live on the spot.
So, as a result, though, just in general of us seeing the sheer amount of leads that were in the discovery bucket, we knew that we had to change something. And what we were doing is we had leads that were in this discovery status. They were prioritized based on how long it's been in the system. So what does that mean? Well, first, let's talk about the theory behind all of this. If someone raises their hand and calls in now and it doesn't get answered, every single minute that lead goes not being contacted, it's a J curve in a negative direction where it becomes less and less and less and less and less likely on an exponential level that they're going to pick up the phone whenever you call them. So the first day, the first hour, the first minute, the first 10 minutes, all of those things matter.
So how do we hold the team accountable to like every minute that it's not getting called or whatever?
Yep, it's a great question. And first and foremost, there's an expectation that every lead is contacted in the first 10 minutes that it comes in, hands down. Now, what we were doing before was the sales manager was going around and knowing and understanding the total call volume that they would have. For example, we know a follow-up specialist could make anywhere from $250 to $300 a day. We know that. And
let's repeat that, because there's a lot of people, I feel like, when they come to our events or they're on our programs, they're like, oh, this person made 50 dials today.
Yeah.
That's not enough. Yeah. So just to repeat that, our follow-up specialists make 200 to 300 plus dials a day. Like, I think 200 is probably a bad day unless they were just getting in front of a lot of people.
Right, which would be a good outcome. Ultimately, we want them talking to people. But that math is just for the sales manager to understand this is the call volume I have in any given day. So, for example, let's say we have 2 follow-up specialists, and let's just make it 500 dials between the two, 250 apiece. Then you have 2 acquisition specialists, and let's just be conservative and say they're getting 75 dials a day. They should be 75 to 100, maybe even 110. 110 is on a day where they're not talking to a whole lot of people. So now we're at 150 plus the 500, so we're at 650 dials is what we have. We're looking at all of our lead buckets, and we're saying, okay, if we have 650 dials to make today, where do we want those dials to go? And so the sales manager, at the start of the day, midway through the morning, at lunch, after lunch, midway through the afternoon, at the end of the day, is looking at, okay, where have we spent our time and where do I need to shift our focus? That's what we have been doing, knowing and understanding that the last 7 days discovery leads was more of a priority than the last 30 days, but that also was the next priority, okay?
So I'm just curious, like, how many on average leads are sitting in the last 7 days discovery?
I don't know that off the top of my head. I want to say it's like 40-ish, maybe 60, okay. Depending upon the time. Obviously that fluctuates, but.
So do you think it's worth like hiring somebody else just to work that? Because these are all inbound leads. I mean, inbound for us, Worst case scenario is 1 of 20. So like there's 2 deals sitting just in that 40 leads a week.
So what we are doing right now is we are staffing more than what we have staffed for our follow-up specialists for this as well. For that, plus I'm going to leverage them for a whole nother strategy as well. That's going to be a whole nother show or a whole nother conversation. But yes, that is the goal. We are staffing up on that front because we feel as if we're losing opportunity on that front. And we're also here's another topic that we're going to talk about later. We're also shifting how we're handling some of the direct mail leads as well. So we're going to actually take that off of the closer's plate, which we can explain on a whole nother conversation on another show. So don't miss that one if you guys are tuning in. Now, with what we used to do and then what had happened with the increase of the discovery rates, we implemented an entirely new framework. Instead of the sales manager being the one who has to give the direction, now there's a clear process in place where we have 48 total touches in the first 10 days a lead comes in. So if you don't answer our first call, which by the way, someone opts in, the first attempt is 3 touches. Every attempt is 3 touches. The first attempt is triple call. I'm calling you 3 times in a row. And if you don't answer that, then it goes into discovery and I'm calling you later that day. When I call you later that day, now it's a call followed by a voicemail, followed by a text. So now in the first 2 attempts, we have 6 total touches. 3 dials on a triple dial, a call, a voicemail, and a text. Now what happens is for the next 2 days, so the first day we had 2 attempts, we have 2 attempts on the second day and 2 attempts on the third day. And then
walk me through. So essentially you're saying there's 48 touches in 10 days.
Correct.
Okay. So they're not going to memorize like all the moving pieces, but I think the big picture here is we like 10x how many times we try to touch these people.
Significantly increased.
Okay.
Yes.
And so walk us through now how you hold Sage accountable, and then how Sage holds them accountable on a daily basis to this.
Yep. So as our team goes through, we added dispositions into our CRM that allowed us to see what attempt we're on.
When you say that, you mean a button?
Correct. We added
and then is it automated?
So right now what happens is, let's say I'm calling Tiffany High and Tiffany High doesn't answer. I go in and I click attempt 1. Okay. And then later that day, if I go in and I...
Can that be automated? I bet it can.
Possibly. It's
that sounds very like a lot of human error.
It's difficult because attempt 1 is 3 calls. So if I call, the automation might see that as 3 touches versus 1 attempt. I want to count attempts.
So you're assuming right now when they click the button that says first attempt that they actually made 3, not 1.
Correct.
How do you verify they made the 3?
And this is a great question. And this is something that was also a learning lesson that we had experienced here in the last few weeks. But just because someone changes a date on a follow-up date doesn't mean that they actually called it. There was a breakdown between our phone system and our CRM that actually had every single call automated in the lead. So we got that reconnected, and what we started to see was that unfortunately some team members were pushing follow-ups because of how there's a lot that goes into this. So I'll share some of this, which I'm already giving up some of the future topics, but we had shorter staff than what we needed due to, unfortunately, a bad hire. And as a result of that, and someone else being on vacation, we had a lack of people on the phone. And so with a lack of people on the phone, they were looking for the low-hanging fruit. And in looking for the low-hanging fruit, they're waiting for that next direct mail to call in. And because when that phone rings, they're prioritizing that, hoping it's just a lay-down seller, a smoking hot deal. They're ignoring their follow-ups. And so what they were doing is they were going in and they were just pushing their follow-ups forward, which is now why we're changing things. We're changing it to where the closers don't have to worry about the phone ringing. I want someone else to handle that and make sure it's a quality opportunity before it gets to them.
Okay, so let's just recap real quick. Because so right now we've learned a few things. One, sounds like we need to execute live call service during certain hours.
Yep.
Okay. Because like even 9 to 12 leads is a deal. And then 2, it sounds like we're doing a new system, which is helping greatly in terms of like this 48 touches in 10 days, but it in my opinion, based on hearing you talk about it, it's very manual and doesn't actually track the behaviors. We're relying on a human to tell us the truth versus the system to tell us the truth. And so it's probably a CRM issue because we have a CRM right now that ultimately, like, we know that we need to probably upgrade, but we have like 80,000 leads. So the data migration of it is painful to think about.
For sure.
But this situation cost us deals. So I would probably think it's time to really evaluate shifting systems, in my opinion. And then in terms of the phone break, how do we find that? Like, was it randomly found, or is there like a thing that should be able to tell us that now?
So ideally, you have a link to the recording of the call, and there should be a recording, even if it's just ringing. Let's just say I'm calling you.
Yeah, I understand. But then how do we find the problem?
Yeah. So what we were doing is we were running through our leads and we were auditing them, trying to understand what's happening with some of our KPIs. As we had a KPI red flag, and we followed our framework, which is you identify the red flag first, then you go to the CRM, and based on what you see in the CRM, you pick the leads that you want to go and audit. Okay, so there's your CRM audit, and then depending upon what you see with the CRM audit, you would then do a call audit. From those three things, you should then be able to diagnose your problem. When you diagnose your problem, you create a plan to solve that problem, then you execute that problem. That's a 6-step KPI framework that we talked through. And so this was during our CRM audit, and we were noticing that dates were being changed, but there weren't recordings that showed that they were being called. So we were like, okay, this is either a system break or a human like error. And so we then went to the phone system, and we went to where all the call logs are. So there's like, that is the gospel. That is what it is. If you made a call, it's there, regardless of if it's in the CRM or not. And so we double checked, and it was about 50-50 where we were making the follow-up calls or we weren't. And so that was obviously unacceptable. And so what we're doing is we're changing and shifting to a point where
I'm just curious, was this like one individual, the whole team?
it was the whole team.
So then this is something you're probably holding Sage accountable to then.
For sure. Yeah. We had a conversation, and we explained and reset expectations and went through gapology and understanding, okay, did we teach them the right way, the knowledge gap portion? Is this an importance issue? Which ultimately, like, there was an expectation, but I don't know if it was clear enough why it was an expectation. So I think there's a prioritization as well as an expectation issue, and then we gain commitment, and now we're holding them accountable because now we have audits for that even. So we have audits where we have VAs going in and checking with views to make sure that if someone had follow-ups, that every one of those people were called that day.
Yeah, again, this goes back to a system that we probably need to migrate to the new CRM, because the CRM we're looking at already does that, so we don't need the VA to be doing that.
Yeah.
It will tell you how many records were in follow-up or had tasks today, and then what's not done.
The tasks, you mean?
Correct.
So I'm taking this offline. So this is the problem between focusing on tasks versus views. And if we get back to tasks, now we have all these tasks even for these leads that shouldn't have our time spent on it.
Well, it's either that or you rely on people that aren't willing to do the...
Pick your poison, unfortunately. I'd
we switch systems. It sounds like you guys are doing a shit ton of manual work.
Yeah, so we are. And I have a question for you, Ace, on this too. There's really no way for you to go and see other than manually, even with Go High Level. If John Smith is supposed to be called today, I have to go check John Smith's record and see if he was called. There's no like automation to say, unless it was a task report that said you cleared all your tasks. But even then, like, there'd have to be conditions that say only create a task if it's in this lead status, and then it creates a task, which I'm sure we could probably do now. I talk through that.
You open it, you can't close without checking.
Right. So there's more.
So like Aaron showed me how at the end of every day, he makes sure like all the tasks and follow-up are cleared from what was on that day by his team.
Yeah, you can still pull it and view it. The GHL can do that as well. So you can still view that they're done, but it would still require the team to go in and check.
So like, again, going back to the human thing, and obviously I would never want someone to do this, but let's just say Tiffany, for whatever reason, gets lazy that day, and you go in and you just check the box because you knew you were supposed to call this person, but you just don't have time to. So you check the box, and then it's the same. Only way I would really know that you called it or didn't call it would be to go in manually and look to see is the recording in there.
Yeah, I mean,
That's what we're doing.
if someone did that, that's like unethical.
Well, for sure, but we need, after we set the expectation, we've got to validate it, because then we would have to have that conversation, which luckily we haven't had to do. But that's how we have to validate it. Is my point.
I see.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm just diving through this to understand, like, is this a process problem, people problem, or system problem? Because it sounds like
it was a little bit of all of it, and we had to solve that. All right, so we got back. So we implemented this 48 touches. We implemented 48 touches in the first 10 days. And just on pay-per-lead, for example, we went from over 80% in discovery rate down to 43% in a matter of, I believe it was 1 week of doing this. So we saw significant improvement just from rolling that out.
Awesome. So hopefully this is valuable to everyone watching, because this is literally, I know that Josh has been working on this, so I thought, why don't we just go ahead and film us talking through the updates, because I don't know all the details yet either. But it sounds like, again, we've been avoiding a massive system change just because it'll be a big undertaking. So I think that, like, with the size of team we have now, and it sounds like a lot of the manual work, we should probably need to get that reviewed. Outside of work hours, we should probably test the call service, because direct mail is one of our number one performing channels in the company. We do around 12 contracts a month in mail. And then I know you have different audits in place, and it sounds like there's still a little bit of room for human error, which is okay. Like, it's better than what it was.
For sure, yeah.
Is there anything else that we are doing with this 48 touches right now that, like, you're shifting as we're changing things?
Yes, we are. We are changing our automation as well. So that was all manual, like human behavior that we talked through on the 48 touches. While we implemented that, we're also revamping what's the text that they get right away. What emails are they getting? How do we increase that volume? So I know Coach Aaron has implemented a really, really awesome strategy for his automation. He shared that with us, and we're combing through that right now and implementing what we feel is the best fit.
Nice. Well, big wins. We have a lot of new stuff in Heels Homes right now that we're testing, trialing, fixing, all of that, optimizing. And so stay tuned. Hopefully you guys took something away from today on how we are decreasing the amount of leads that are sitting in what we call discovery, which means we've not been able to reach them since they either opted in or called in, etc. Anything else? Last words?
Nope. Stay results driven, everyone.
All right, guys, if you like us talking through this live in action, give us some comments in the testimonials, or feel free to shoot me a DM on Instagram. Would love to hear the feedback. We'll keep doing these if it helps.